One of the questions I get asked oftentimes when I'm talking to people that are wanting to get into weed control and fertilization is about the equipment they need to get started. The good news, in my opinion, it's a little bit simpler even than starting in a mowing business, where you might need a mower and a trailer and trimmers and blower and hedge trimmer. There's quite a few pieces of equipment. When I went and started my weed control and fertilization business, I went and bought a spray rig and a push spreader, and I was pretty much up and running. Now, I did have to get a bigger truck to carry the tank. But in this video, I want to talk to you about some of the equipment that you can use to get started in the weed control and fertilization. And some of it's going to vary on your budget, some of it's going to depend on the size of your business, and some of it's going to depend on what you're trying to grow into someday, because you might start with one rig and then move up and upgrade to others. So let's get started discussing that right now. Hopefully, if you watch the channel regularly, you recognize my rig here. And I've got a ride-on spreader sprayer on the back. I've got a 400-gallon split tank on the back. So when I say 400 split tank, it's like 300 gallons on the large side, 100 gallons on the small side. You see the handheld sprayers on the other side. I've got my electric reel, and then I've got two backpack sprayers. And I personally love a flatbed because it gives you a lot of room to put a lot of fertilizer back here, which is great. Now, a lot of you guys know that I work with Graham Spray Equipment, and I bought this rig from them years ago, and it's been doing great ever since. I'm gonna go over some of the features of my rig, but I want to start with talking about something smaller, because oftentimes I get a conversation with somebody and maybe they've got an existing mowing business and they're wanting to add on weed control, and they're just not sure how many customers they're going to be able to get right off. Maybe I can get 30, 40, 50 customers, or even up to 100 in the first year, and it may take them a little while to grow into a bigger rig. So they might want to start off with something smaller. In my opinion, I would not start off with anything less than 200 gallons as a designated spray tank. Now, if you just got a small tank that you want to do tree and shrub work with, then that makes sense. Or if you just have something that you want to use just to refill a ride-on spreader sprayer, in that situation, get by with a smaller tank. But if you're talking about out there blanket spraying yards, less than 200 gallons is going to run the risk of you possibly running out in the middle of the day, which is not fun, because then you got to go back and fill up and mix the chemicals again, and it's just not good. Now, the good thing is you can calibrate your sprayer to get more square footage out of a tank. So for instance, my 400-gallon tank, I spray about 2 gallons for every 1,000 square feet. So let's just say I've got the whole thing filled up with 400 gallons of the same mix, and I'm out blanketing yards with pre and post emergent, then I can cover 200,000 square feet. Well, that's 10,000 square feet yards. My legs would be so tired by the end of the day. That's a lot of walking, that's a lot of yards. Or even 5,000 square feet yards, I could do 40 of them. Okay, that's plenty. I'm done for the day. Okay, I'm going home. I got to take a nap. If you got a 200-gallon tank, let's say you take the volume down a little bit and you're spraying like 1.2 gallons per 1,000 square feet. Well, then you can still get a lot of square footage out of that to hopefully not have to fill up in the middle of the day, because that's really what you don't want to happen. Supply chain issues are real in the spray tank business as well, which is unfortunate, but Graham does have quite a few of the smaller units, 200 gallon, 225, things like that, on the lot ready to go that you can go get. Let me show you a little bit of the footage from some of the rigs that they have in stock.
This is the 200-gallon poly sprayer. It's got an AR40 pump on it with a gearbox. It's got a Hannay reel with 400 foot of 3/8 hose. It's got the new Duramax 7 horsepower engine, heavy duty steel frame. This fits a full-size pickup truck, and this is ready to spray.
And what I tell people is, hey, if you go buy a 200-gallon rig, one, I believe when you calibrate it down to, like I said, 1.2 gallons per 1,000, I'm just throwing that out, it doesn't have to be exactly that, but there can be a rig that you get a lot of use out of, and say 5 years from now your business is blown up and you're huge and you need to start adding more trucks. Well, you have some options. You can, one, sell that rig, because there's a lot of people that are starting in the weed control and fertilization business and they might want to buy that rig. Two, you can probably keep it as a designated rig and start a second truck, and so you still got a rig. It's not like it's wasted because you now want to grow into a bigger rig. Or 3, it may become like a designated rig for something. Let's just say you got into spraying gravel parking lots and you wanted something you could just put your gravel parking lot mix in and go spray it. So you have this designated rig for one purpose that you're going to use for that. So there's some things to think through and some options, but the point being, if you buy it and you do outgrow it one day, it's not like it's wasted. You made a lot of money off of it. You can sell it, you can keep it, you can start a second truck. There's some things you can do. The other question I get asked a lot of times is about the split tank, because people know I've got a split tank, and you see those 2 yellow valves right there, those are both pointing up. That means I'm pulling from the small side. If I flip both of those valves down, it's going to start pulling from the large side. Well, the split tank has some advantages in my opinion. So I'm dealing with Bermuda, zoysia, centipede, and St. Augustine grass. Now most of the yards are Bermuda and zoysia, but I do have quite a few centipede and even a few St. Augustine lawns. So oftentimes when I'm out blanketing yards in the spring or fall with pre and post emergent applications, I'll put the zoysia Bermuda mix in the large side, because that's primarily what I deal with. But I'll put the centipede St. Augustine mix, which is slightly different, in the small side, because I might run up on some of those. Now, if you had a 200-gallon tank that was not split, that's fine also. You just might have to go do all your Bermuda zoysia yards one day and then empty the tank and do your centipede St. Augustine lawns the next day. The advantage of having a split tank is if they're next door neighbors and one has centipede and the other has Bermuda, I can spray the Bermuda one, flip the valves, and spray the centipede one while I'm right there and not have to make a separate trip back to the same neighborhood. What I typically do is I'll put just a little bit of blue dye in the small side, just enough to change the color of the water. Then when I flip those valves, I spray it back into the original tank until the water turns that tinted blue, and then I know I'm now spraying the mix that's safe for the centipede grass or whatever it is. There's other applications for that. I might be in the springtime and I have a mix on one side that's for my new signups, and the crabgrass is already germinated and I want to put some kind of crabgrass post-emergent in there. Then I might put that in one side where I may have a different mix on the other side. So maybe you're in the transition zone and you've got warm season mix in one side, cool season mix in the other. Use your imagination, but you can see some advantages of the split tank. The other times I use it, sometimes I'll have the small side mixed up at a much higher potency, and it's to go into my ride-on spreader sprayer. It sprays a lot lower volume, so it's mixed a lot more concentrated, where the large side might be set to spray out of my hose over here. And you see the guys that's got the big Isuzu flatbeds, and they've got a 600-gallon tank with another sprayer tank and another sprayer tank, and I mean, they're out there to conquer the world. They've got multiple hose reels, multiple pumps. They've got them where you can haul your ride-on spreader sprayer with you. Basically, you have to decide what you want for your business and then let them guys build it for you. While they do try to build what the customer wants, I try to lean on their experience a little bit when I go talk to them, because they have built thousands of these things, and if I only go in there and tell them something that's really not a good idea, like I'm gonna put my hose reel on the other side of the truck or something, you know, I was like, let's just let these guys make some strong recommendations, and if I have a slight modification, that's fine, but I typically just go with what the expert says. Another question I get asked a lot is, Jason, do you think I should get a ride-on spreader sprayer first or a spray rig first? Well, I mean, if I had to choose, I'm gonna go with the sprayer. My honest answer is I hope you can get both at the same time. Now, again, if you have to get the sprayer first and then hopefully able to get a ride-on machine as soon as possible, that would be great, because pushing lawns is not a whole lot of fun pushing a spreader, especially on hills. This is the old Ground Logic unit, and I use it because I have a lot of small yards, and also it's very good on hills. There's some things that I'm not crazy about, but it's got a spiker spreader, which I like, so it throws a good pattern. It holds the hill very good. So if you want a smaller spreader, there's other options out there. There's like the Z-Spray LTS, which is made to go through a 36-inch gate. There's Permagrain, there's Turfco T3100, and there's some other new ones out there as well. I don't have a lot of experience on the larger machines like your Z-Sprays and things like that, but I have some friends that have them and they love them because they talk about how much ground you can cover. So if you got some big yards or you're doing some sports turf or something like that, then you may want to look into eventually getting one of these larger machines. Say, Jason, well, why would you get a spray rig first? Why wouldn't you just get that machine? Well, the larger machines are going to have a much better spray system than those smaller ride-on machines. But I would still get a spray rig to fill that up, even if you're spraying almost exclusively with the ride-on machine. Now, me personally, I almost always am spraying out of my big tank. I don't spray a whole lot with the small machine. I do every once in a while. But I like the agitation in the big tank. I like being able to mix multiple products in that big tank and get the great agitation, and then to be able to walk by hand on these small yards and get right up next to a flower bed without getting on the flower bed. Again, if you got a bigger machine, disease sprays and stuff, they've got a hose reel that'll allow you to get in some of those tight spaces. And also for us with the warm season grasses, you can get a foam marking kit on those big machines so you can see exactly where you're spraying. Because I'll tell you from experience, if you leave a 6-inch gap between the yard and the flower bed, that's gonna be 6 inches of weeds where I live. This is probably a no-brainer, but make sure you get a reel that is electrical wind. You don't want to be hand winding this thing. And honestly, I keep 2 spare parts on my truck. I keep a belt that runs around that pulley, and I've got mechanical agitation on this large side. I got a bean piston pump, so I've got some real serious agitation on this large side. And the other thing I keep spare is an extra button. Every once in a while this button will go bad, and it's just 2 screws on the back to put a new button on. And believe me, you want to change that button out and not have to hand wind 300 foot of hose up. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll see what I can do. Again, the Graham people have the smaller rigs in stock ready to go. If you want a larger rig, then I would encourage you to go ahead and call them and have the conversation about price and about when do I need to order it to make sure I've got it ready to go. Whether you're looking to start in the spring or in January, whenever you need that thing ready to go, I would go ahead and have a conversation and say, put me in line to get one, because I don't want to call them in December and you're down the list and it's going to be a while before you get yours. Just how I would handle that, because if you're looking to start a weed control and fertilization business next year, then you need to be thinking about that now and get everything ready to go, because you don't want to be scrambling trying to find your equipment in March when the customers are calling and you're not prepared to go out there and take on those properties. Do a quick Google search on Graham Spray Equipment there in Douglasville, Georgia, or visit them at grahamse.com. Give those guys a call. If you need resources for weed control and fertilization or mowing or mosquito spraying, you can go to linecarelife.com. I'm Jason Creel. Leave the questions below and we'll see you guys in the next video.